All right, it looks like Courtney Williams has taken center stage. Courtney Williams, the all-star guard of the Minnesota Lynx, one half of the stud, but address this entire Caitlin Clark racism situation. The racist fans, they are targeting the players. Oh, everybody is a victim. Courtney Williams didn't hold back on the situation and how the WNBA players should handle this thing.
Picture the moment Courtney Williams decided to open her mouth about Caitlin Clark, apparently believing that nobody would bother checking the receipts afterward. That belief turned out to be a serious miscalculation. Within hours, old clips began resurfacing across social media. Timelines were laid side by side, and viewers started doing exactly what today's internet does best, which is expose the gap between what someone claims happened and what the footage actually shows. This was not some accidental slip of the tongue that could be brushed off later. This appeared to be a fully formed narrative, constructed with intention, and aimed directly at one of the most closely watched and heavily scrutinized players in the entire history of the WNBA. Now, the regret is visible in every follow-up statement and every attempt at damage control. Fans are not simply annoyed by what they are seeing, they are actively investigating, pulling footage apart frame by frame to prove that the story does not hold together the way it was originally told. What began as one bold comment is quickly becoming a case study in what happens when someone underestimates a fan base that genuinely never stops paying attention. So what exactly did Courtney Williams say, and how quickly did the whole thing start to fall apart once people looked closer? You are probably asking yourself what Courtney Williams actually said about Caitlin Clark that has generated this much attention and reaction across the league. You might also be wondering whether this was a spontaneous comment made in the heat of the moment, or something she had clearly been holding on to and waiting to release. There is a good chance you are also asking why this particular moment matters so much right now, especially given everything else happening this season. Some part of you is likely questioning whether this is simply another manufactured storyline designed to generate clicks, or whether there is genuine tension building beneath the surface between these players. And then there is the question that tends to stick with you long after you have read the headline, which is this: if the claims being made do not actually hold up under scrutiny, then what was the real motivation behind saying them in the first place? Is this truly about Caitlin Clark, specifically? Or is she simply the easiest and most visible target available right now? By the time this video ends, you will understand exactly what Courtney Williams claimed, the specific evidence that contradicts those claims, and why the timing of everything makes this situation look even worse than it already appeared at first glance. We are going to break down the actual comments word for word, place them directly next to the real footage and statistics, and walk you through the exact moment the narrative started to unravel in real time. You will also see how other players around the league responded once the inconsistencies started coming to light, and why this situation might not be an isolated incident this season. This is not simply drama being manufactured for entertainment purposes, it is a pattern that seems worth understanding if you follow this league closely at all. Before we get into everything, do you personally believe Courtney Williams knew she was bending the truth when she said this? Or do you think she genuinely believed what she was saying at the time? Let me know your honest take in the comments below.
Courtney Williams has been one that has not bit her tongue about pretty much anything, okay? And especially when it's come to Caitlin Clark. She's let it be known where she stands in the Caitlin Clark fight. And she's done it outwardly. She has not hidden where she stands or anything like that. And she let it be known what these WNBA players need to be doing and how they need to be addressing Caitlin Clark and this social media rampage that is going on. And we also have Christine Brennan.
Courtney Williams stands in front of a camera and tells the world the internet is not a real place, urging players to simply press block and move on whenever things get heated with fans. On the surface, that sounds like reasonable advice, and honestly, there is truth in telling athletes not to let strangers online control their emotions. But listen closer, because right after preaching that message of restraint, she pivots and takes a direct shot at Alyssa Thomas, accusing her of playing victim after what Williams herself describes as a throat punch on another player. That is not staying above the noise. That is contradicting the very advice she just gave, in the same breath, on camera. You cannot tell people to ignore the internet and then use your platform to stir up more of exactly that. Something does not add up here, and it raises an obvious question before you even finish watching. Your first reaction is probably simple. Did Courtney Williams really just contradict herself in under 30 seconds? Then you start wondering if this was a scripted talking point or something she genuinely believes, because the tone shifts so fast it almost feels intentional. You might also be asking why Alyssa Thomas specifically became the target here, and what actually happened in that incident she is referencing so casually. There is a bigger question sitting underneath all of this too, which is whether players like Williams are trying to control the public narrative around Caitlin Clark by discrediting anyone who pushes back. And maybe the question that lingers longest is this. If she is telling everyone else to ignore the internet, why does she keep engaging with it herself, repeatedly, on camera, in ways that generate exactly the reaction she claims to be against?
Bud, take it away.
The internet is not a real place. So I think when you treat the internet like a real place, that's when you get everybody like, oh my God. But it's like, bro, you don't know these people in real life. Just press the block button, bro. Just press the block button and then move on. Like, the internet is not a real.
You hear that? It's not that serious. Press the block button. Move on with your life. We don't need to hear Alyssa Thomas.
Here is the honest read. Williams is not offering neutral advice, she is managing perception while simultaneously fueling the exact drama she claims to dismiss, and that inconsistency is the real story in this clip. Telling players to block and move on only works if you actually practice it yourself, and calling out Alyssa Thomas by name for playing victim does the opposite of moving on. This fits a pattern you have probably noticed across WNBA media cycles this season, where players say one thing about staying above the noise and then immediately do the opposite the moment a camera is rolling. It is not really about the internet not being real, it is about controlling who gets blamed and who gets protected in these ongoing conflicts. And that contradiction becomes even harder to ignore once you hear what comes next.
Lock them and move on. Can we grow up and act like adults in a professional league? You guys are getting paid millions of dollars now. There's gonna be a not so positive side to it as well. Can everybody stop with the victim stuff? Courtney Williams is letting it be known. WNBA players need to grow the hell up. Grow the hell up. Stop running around trying to act like Caitlin Clark is racist. Every single one of her fans are racist, no matter what their race is. And all you gotta do is either get off social media, not pay attention to it, or just block people and move on with your day.
Courtney Williams raises her voice and demands that WNBA players grow up, reminding everyone that they are now getting paid millions of dollars and need to act like professionals instead of playing the victim. That part lands, honestly, because accountability in a growing league is a fair conversation to have. But then, she jumps straight into a sweeping claim, saying that every single fan Caitlin Clark has is racist regardless of their race, and that is where this stops being a professionalism argument and turns into something reckless. That is not a take grounded in facts, that is a blanket accusation aimed at an entire fan base, without a shred of evidence to back it up. You cannot preach maturity in one sentence and then throw out one of the most inflammatory generalizations in recent WNBA discourse in the next. Something is not adding up, and it demands a closer look. Your first thought is probably straightforward. Did Courtney Williams actually just call every Caitlin Clark fan racist? No exceptions, no nuance? Then you start questioning how someone can demand professionalism from an entire league while making a statement this broad and this unprovable. You might be wondering if there is any data, any pattern, anything at all supporting a claim that sweeping, or if this is purely emotional. There is also the question of why this particular narrative keeps surfacing around Clark specifically, more than any other player in the league. And underneath all of that sits the real concern. If players are allowed to make claims this extreme without pushback, what does that do to the actual conversation about race and fandom in the WNBA moving forward? Here is the direct answer. Williams did make a sweeping generalization that cannot be supported, and painting millions of fans with one label regardless of their race is not accountability. It is deflection dressed up as toughness. The professionalism point had potential, but it gets buried the moment the conversation turns into an unprovable accusation instead of a specific addressable issue. This mirrors a pattern you have likely noticed building all season, where legitimate criticism about league conduct gets tangled up with broad claims about race that shut down real dialogue instead of opening it. Calling for maturity while making an immature, unsupported statement is the exact contradiction driving this entire story. And that contradiction only gets more complicated once you hear what comes next.
Like, oh my God, but it's like, bro, you don't know these people in real life. Just press the block button, bro. Just press the block button and then move on. Like,
just press the block button and move on. Courtney Williams has been letting it be known from the jump. Y'all are doing way too much when it comes to this Caitlin Clark thing. Y'all are hating. Okay, the girl is what is like the most legit player in the league. She's must-see TV. She's pulling up from range that nobody else in the league is. She's a hell of a player. She ain't bothering nobody. She show love. Why are y'all hating? Why are y'all trying to push her out of the league? Why is everybody trying to play victim? It's ridiculous. Courtney Williams laying the blueprint once again for how WNBA players should be going about this thing. Now,
Courtney Williams doubles down here, praising Caitlin Clark's game directly, calling her must-see television and pointing out that she is pulling up from range nobody else in the league is attempting. That part is accurate and honestly refreshing because it acknowledges Clark's actual talent instead of dismissing it the way so much of this discourse tends to. But then, the questions start piling up fast. Why is everyone hating? Why is everyone trying to push her out? Why is everyone playing victim? Those questions sound supportive on the surface, but they completely ignore the specific, documented incidents fans have pointed to all season, the ones involving actual physical contact and actual on-court conflict. Praising the talent while pretending the tension has no real basis is not the full picture, and that gap is exactly what you need to pay attention to next. Your first reaction is probably relief. Finally, someone acknowledging Clark's actual skill level without the usual dismissiveness. But then the follow-up questions start creeping in. If she genuinely respects the game that much, why does the framing still avoid naming any of the specific incidents fans are actually upset about? Is asking why everyone is hating a fair question, or is it a way of skipping past legitimate grievances entirely? You might also be wondering if praising talent while dodging accountability is becoming a pattern here, not just an isolated moment. And the bigger question underneath all of it, is this genuine support for Clark, or is it more about controlling the narrative around her critics while avoiding any real reckoning with what actually happened on the court? Here is the straightforward read. The praise for Clark's game is real and deserved. There is no argument there. But framing every criticism as hating or victim playing, without ever naming the specific moments that sparked those criticisms, is not analysis. It is avoidance dressed up as support. You have likely noticed this exact move happening across the league all season, where genuine talent gets used as a shield to deflect from very real, very specific conflicts that fans are not just imagining. Respecting a player's skill and acknowledging legitimate on-court tension are not mutually exclusive, yet this clip treats them like they are. That selective framing is a bigger problem than it first appears, and it sets up exactly what comes into focus next. So when you line up every clip side by side, the pattern becomes impossible to miss. Courtney Williams preached restraint while stoking conflict, demanded professionalism while making an accusation she couldn't support, and praised Caitlin Clark's talent while dodging the specific incidents fans actually care about. That's not a slip of the tongue, it's a narrative built on contradictions that don't survive contact with the footage. And maybe that's the real lesson here. In a league this scrutinized, the story you tell only holds up if the receipts back it up. And right now, they don't. If you want the next contradiction broken down the moment it happens, with the footage laid out clip by clip so you can judge it yourself, subscribe now, because this WNBA season is far from done handing us these moments.